Hey everybody, this is Alzorath and welcome to GamerFi. Today we're taking a look at Democracy 3, a game by Positech Games. It's a political simulator. That's pretty obvious by the title, I would wager, but it may sound boring at first, but once you get into balancing political opinion, political power, and your ability to basically manage the country in a direction that you can feel would be good for basically its existence, you can get really in-depth and be burning a lot of time in this game and really enjoying it. So that's one of the reasons why I've wanted to cover this for a long time, and it's been out for a while. It already has even DLC and stuff like that. Now, it has a few options here on the main screen. You have, of course, the options menu, which gives you the basic sliders. It's not a graphically intensive game by any stretch of the imagination. So you just have resolutions, you have some volume sliders, and you have things that impact the starting of your country, such as dilemmas, assassinations. Randomized start randomizes kind of information about your country. You have political capital here. You can check them off and check them out yourself whenever you pick up the game. It goes on sale during the seasonal sales quite often, so you can pick it up then for relatively cheap, and it is worth picking up if you enjoy kind of number-based kind of simulations where you're kind of balancing things in your head, and balancing the political capital and stuff like that is very big on that. I'm a statistics junkie, so it like appeals to me on like 3 or 4 different levels. As far as the mod section go, I haven't installed any, so I'm not entirely sure how good the mod scene is right now, but it does have access to the Steam Workshop, and you can make your own and basically update it and stuff like that. So that's always a plus. I love seeing more games supporting mods directly through their interfaces, which is a great thing to see happen because it's something that is relatively new and we haven't seen in the gaming industry pretty much at all until the past few years. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and click new game and see what countries we have available. You have the UK, you have France, you have Germany, you have the US, you have Canada, and you have Australia if we click over here and actually click on it. Not a big variety, but I imagine there's mods out there that kind of spread that out just a little bit, but we're going to choose United States since, well, the vast majority of you guys are from there, and Germany, oddly enough. Although I also have a decent-sized UK audience, according to analytics. Woo! Not that I'm really that obsessed with where you're from, as long as you enjoy the content. But let's go ahead and click play, and we'll get this screen that basically tells us about the country that we are starting. You have the term length, which is how long each basically set of turns goes. You'll see more about that whenever we get into the actual game. The term limit, if you set it to 2, you're going to have a relatively short game, whereas no limit, you can theoretically go on forever as long as you can get reelected. As far as the party names go, you can select from a list. Over here, you could select pretty much anything you want. You could be the Conservatives, and we're going to do that just out of the irony of the situation, because, well, the U.S. is generally considered fairly conservative. Over here we have hurricanes, earthquakes, which are your natural disasters. You can have compulsory voting and monarchy. I haven't turned on monarchy, so I'm not entirely sure how it works, but it would be an interesting thing to try out, and I'll probably try it out on my own. I've only put about an hour and a half into this game so far, so yeah, I'm not exactly great at it, but I do enjoy it, and I find that getting into the depths of it is quite entertaining for me. So let's go ahead and click play, and as it says, fix this country's problems. The sliders, of course, impact the various aspects of your country. Now, whenever you get into office for the first time, you're going to be greeted by this screen, and it's going to tell you about your new job as president, blah, blah, blah. It's going to tell you about how many citizens, re-election in 4 years, and the etc., etc. You have these kind of basic information things here, such as your GDP, unemployment, crime, health, education, and poverty, which tell you about the status of your country, red obviously being bad, yellow being mediocre, and green being good. I wouldn't quite rate the education here to be green right now. But that's my own personal opinion. As we kind of skim through these, you can see this is pretty much the entirety of the gameplay. I'm moving my mouse around on purpose to try and avoid activating some of the things I'm going to talk about in a minute. But around the edge, you actually have your policies and the environmental effects on your country, well, social effects on your country, with these little circles. And in the middle, you have your political status among a variety of groups. And if we stop and actually hover over something, you'll see that after a moment, it'll switch to this kind of faded out screen that shows just the things that impact that. For example, oil demand decreasing has a positive effect on lowering the cost of oil. A increase in oil supply causes the oil supply cost to go down. if I remember correctly. Yeah, I haven't really messed around with oil too much. I have messed around with green fuels, though, and that actually has an impact on it as well, which is this one up here, which you actually promote biofuel subsidies, and actually gets an improvement among farmers, environmentalists, and motorists, but it reduces the demand on oil, which is sometimes a good thing, but it costs you money. As far as in the middle, you can actually hover over the individual, basically, not necessarily political parties, but mindsets to see how they're influenced, and oddly enough, voters can be parts of multiple groups here. They could be an environmentalist who's a state employee and part of everyone, which everyone, I think, is quite literally everyone. So that's an interesting thing to have in there, and as you add more policies, this gets more stuff and more social influences and everything, and it gets a bit more complicated. It may look complicated at first from looking right here, but there actually aren't that many policies here to manage. Most of these blue ones are actually social kind of things that you can't really change. If you wanted to change something, though, you could come in and just click on it and it would bring up this screen. You can even do this with social issues and stuff, but if I wanted to raise this, I'd have to spend 27 political capital. As you can see, it's redded out. That's because, if I go ahead and go back out of this, I only have 26 political capital. This lasts from turn to turn, so political capital is able to be accumulated over time, so you could get a really big political capital to get some large changes in over a short period of time. But even then, there's implementation windows. As you could see, whenever I went to this, if I raised it all the way up, you see that there's a light red and a dark red here. The light red is the change over time and what it will eventually be, and the dark red is what it is currently. Same with green, it's dark green and light green. So that's something to keep an eye out. I'm not going to actually change that, because frankly, that would mean death to this country. As far as the menus go, you have your intelligence briefing, which tells you about membership in different groups. The ones with the guns are your kind of aggressive groups. Security effectiveness is ineffective. We don't really spy on these people much. I don't really feel the need to anyway. You have your polling, which is like focus groups and stuff like that. You can click on different kind of groups to get information about them. You have your policies, which are listed here, and their status as well. You have changes. Yeah, these are static because this is our first turn. And you have your compass as far as politics go. Right now, we're a conservative capitalist. You can move this dot around by changing policies. And it's actually an interesting thing because you can track it outside of the game, and you can see where you ended up in each kind of playthrough, which is kind of nice. Here you have your financial reports, which is your expenditure, income, and your charts. A little bit awkward to read at first, but once you figure it out, it's fairly obvious and, well, easy to follow, and you can use it to great effect to affect the income of your country. Next to that, you have your policies, which I usually go to the tax one first, because frankly, you need some money to get out of the recession sort of thing. Not necessarily recession, but deficit. There we go. Use the proper word here. You have a variety of things that you can go through. Most of these cost money rather than bring in money, but you can add import tariffs. You can force national service. You have all these other things that can have decent influence on the way your country operates. I'm not going to go through all of them. That's more for someone who's going to go through it in depth. But I have looked at most of them. Yes, most of them. I'm going to go and click on achievements. As you can see, I haven't done any of them. Woohoo. Over here is your kind of cabinet or your council, if you want. You can see their political influence each, and also if you click on them, you can see how much it is to fire them. You can also hire new ministers in their spots to kind of change up your cabinet. I've never clicked on the reshuffle cabinet thing, but it does give you new, basically, cabinet members just at random, which I don't think I'd really like, honestly. That's just my opinion. Of course, you have your game settings right there, and over here you have your political party comparisons. Liberal Party versus Conservatives. The Conservatives are winning. They usually are on your first turn. The opposing party is almost always dominant, as you can see by our popularity. We're not going to change anything. We're just going to click next and see what happens. If you click on Return to Government, you get this screen as well. You'd see a little green arrow over here if the GDP was going up. You'd see a red arrow if it was going down. Currently, nothing's really happening because it's been too short of a time period, which is 3 months. If we click on the debt protection law, it'll give us an option to make a decision. Do we limit these debt agencies, or do we allow them to operate? We're going to limit them just because, well, we don't like them preying on our people. As you can see, the opinions of people in various groups are going up. We haven't changed anything, but our popularity is going up. If we look up here at the top center, you'll see that the progress bar says now there's only 15 turns left, and each turn is a 3-month segment. It's a quarter, basically. We've also gained some more political capital to use. We have got 53 right now. I'm not going to really spend it on too many things. We could do it on something stupid right here. Well, this one isn't stupid. It's kind of fun to do. Let's go ahead and apply the changes to encourage more hybrid vehicles. Spend a lot more money on it. See how that influences things. And let's go ahead and promote biofuel. Let's go ahead and make our debts just insane. Yes, there we go. Now we're going to have a bigger deficit next turn. Our deficit did go down this last turn, but yeah, it's going to go back up. But that's basically how you play the game. The game itself gets much more involved as things move on and you get closer to re-election and have to worry about it. I'm not going to take you through the 15 turns because I would get neurotic and actually be tweaking numbers, adding new policies, which adding a new policy is kind of interesting, so I can show you that just real quick. Let's add a luxury goods tax. Let's go ahead and click implement. It tells you how much. It was 14 out of, I think, 24, because we have 42 political capital, and it took 14 to implement this. Whenever you first implement something, you can implement it at any amount of percents. I could make the luxury goods tax insanely high or just almost non-existent at 1%. Let's go ahead and make it at 10%. It defaults to the middle, by the way. And let's go ahead and apply these changes. And as you can see, it's going to pop up right there in our little tax section. If you look in the background, it actually says what each one of these represents, so you can better narrow it down. Our deficit is going to go up, our expenditure is going to go up, as is our income slightly. But we are back at down to 28 political capital, which I've never really done it quite that nicely before. But if we click next, it'll do the same thing again, and you'll run across various choices and various kind of random effects. There's actually one called superhero. Let's go ahead and make it illegal to employ children below a certain age. Click continue. But right now we don't see any of those random events. You can have like superhero, earthquake, natural effects. Oh, our deficit is actually going down. Interesting. The poor like us more, the socialists like us more, the self-employed are remaining neutral. I'd wager they're going to start hating us because of this luxury goods tax. They tend to do that. So do certain wealthy individuals, such as the wealthy one right here. But I actually do enjoy this game, and I find it interesting to try and balance all the things out and try and get my deficit positive, to upgrade my credit ratings among other nations and all this other stuff. You really do have to think about how it impacts a variety of things. You can't just have extreme one direction or another type of country, especially whenever you're working with one of the pre-existing countries. So yeah, definitely check it out. Pick it up on Steam. There's going to be a link down below in the description. If you're not sure whether you like it, I'd recommend picking it up on sale during one of the Steam sales. They usually cut it down a very decent amount, and honestly, around I'd pay 10-15 bucks for this even if I was unsure about it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of GamerFi, and I hope you come back for the next one. And I hope you guys enjoy Democracy 3 whenever you eventually pick it up, or if you eventually pick it up, on pretty much any of your favorite platforms. I do think this is kind of a tangent here, but I do think this would make an exceptional mobile game. I don't know if they have it on mobile devices or not, but this would be like right up my alley for a mobile game. I would play the holy living crap out of this and probably be so unproductive. But yeah, I don't know if it's on there, and if it is, I might pick it up. But yeah, keep gaming, have fun, peace out. This has been Alzorath, and I will see you guys next time on GamerFi. Bye.